All right, just for your viewers, my typical takeoff is going to be 1 notch of flaps.
1 notch of flaps, which is about how many degrees?
10 degrees.
10 degrees, all right.
You can do 20 or you can do 0. It's just a different airspeed. It's going to leave the ground.
Okay.
Short field landing would be full flaps the whole way in, or takeoff, full flaps for departure.
Which is how many?
20 degrees.
20 degrees, okay.
They're flaperons, the drooping ailerons.
Yeah, okay.
So they don't really add drag to the mix, they just add lift.
One Gulf X-ray and
okay.
Yeah, right downwind runway 17.
And that's the transition. They don't create drag, so coming over an obstacle, full flaps, keep it slow and just let it settle flat. You can't really dive over a tree because there's no extra drag to stop it from picking up speed.
I see.
And my procedure is I lift the nose right away,
Take a 360 in the pattern for the departing.
balance on the main,
oh, okay.
add power in, and it'll fly when it's ready.
Yeah, you were sure able to lift the nose quickly. Suggests a powerful pitch controller.
It is.
That big flying stabilizer back there really does a job.
And Buckeye traffic, flight 48 Gulf X-ray, entering midfield downwind. We got the circling aircraft in sight.
And on landing, it's a bit more sensitive than the A32 with that full flying stabilizer back there.
A little more pitch sensitive, is it?
It is.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, climbs up real strong.
We're full fuel. I had them fill it yesterday.
And we're topped off, so we're pretty near gross. And we're seeing, initially there was about 800 feet a minute. Well, let's hold it about 800 feet a minute. So, real solid climb. How many gallons of fuel we got on board then?
30.
30 is max, okay. You have an option for even more fuel?
No.
Okay, so 30 is it. 30 is plenty by...
24 and 30 are the 2 fuel tanks.
Oh, I see, okay. So 24 and 30, this has the longer range ones on it.
Now, if somebody was worried about gross weight overall, just buy it with the 24
Just
tank.
go to 24. Even 24 is going to give you, with this engine,
4 plus.
Yeah, good 4 hours and a reserve. It's actually pretty smooth up here today.
Buckeye traffic, 203903, 10 miles to the north.
Those air shock absorbers, huh?
We'll go west here a little bit.
Affect any of the traffic. Buckeye.
And Buckeye traffic, light 48 Gulf X-ray, turning right base for runway 17.
Buckeye traffic.
Optionally, we'll put extra windows in the doors if you need more.
Well, this is pretty good, though. I mean, if I put this thing all the way to me, it'd be...
Oh, yeah, it'll blow a lot of air.
I don't need that much, but I want a little bit of movement. But those actually work quite good.
Now, some of the things I usually demo to people once we get settled off here on a cruise, gentle cruise, stop climbing. Now, the pitch on this airplane in flight, once you set the trim, you'll never have to adjust it again.
Okay, and trim is a small lever to the left of the parking brake lever at the base of the joystick on the pilot side. I don't know. I'm describing that because I don't know if the cameras can see it there.
We still want to climb here. So demos I usually do to people once I get it trimmed out, flying level, is I show them I can make turns to the left. Find just that happy trim set up here. I go left with no hands. Put the rudder back in the middle and it stays where you just stays in the bank.
Yeah, pretty good for in-flight adjustments.
Doesn't fall in. Same thing, and of course the nose is going to go up going that way a little bit. Same thing. I keep my feet off the pedals and it stays where you put it in the roll.
Alright, completely hands off here.
Completely hands off. Now I can put the rudder in the middle, which it should be already.
Buckeye traffic, helicopter.
And I can do the same kind of thing with the stick, make a turn.
9.5.
Ball moves about half a mark.
Yeah, wasn't much adverse yaw there.
And then after that, you just kind of let go and it stays where you put it.
Uh-huh.
And even in thermals on bumpy days, it kind of keeps the same tendency.
Yeah, and I've noticed it's holding the altitude too, so...
And the other way, even a steeper bank, it'll stay where I put it. And I keep wanting to climb there a little bit. It's very stable in all axes. The faster you go, the more it locks in. Because those big ailerons, the more air.
Ah, okay.
But slow flight.
But here we are, we're reading in knots or miles per hour. We're reading miles per hour, so we're 110, almost 100 knots. at just 5,100 RPM and low altitude, 2,300.
I'll
5 miles to the
level out for just a minute.
Cooling, we're looking real good here. Everything's well down in the green. It's a cool day today, so we're not taxing it too hard, but...
And I have tape on the radiator to help the cabin heat stay warmer.
I say that again.
I have tape on the radiator to help everything stay warmer, so the cabin heat would be really good at 190 on the water.
Okay.
But just to get a level, the autopilot does better than I can.
Syracuse, 6 into wind speed is 5
So we're doing about 115 at 5,100. We'll bring it up to 53.
17, full stop.
We're doing 124 true at 5380. It should end up settling about 130, 132.
Okay. Yeah, about almost 120 indicated, 125 true, and we got a little bit of tail behind us, a little quartering tail. 5,400 RPM. Fuel flow is just shy of 6.0 gallons, and the water temperatures and oil temperatures are again, it's a fairly cool day, so we're not too surprised to see that. But cooling doesn't appear to be much of an issue, or any issue, I should say.
It's 5,000 RPM, which is always people talk about, oh, I don't cruise at 53, I cruise at 5,000. Now we'll drop that fuel burn.
Okay, you had a pretty good trip out here. What did you typically cruise at?
Well, in this airplane,
Altitude and power setting, I mean.
altitude is anywhere from 10,000, 6,000 to 10,000, but I had a headwind so much I stayed lower. 3 to 4 or 1,500 feet above the ground was my comfortable number.
Okay, that was getting you the lowest headwind, huh?
Lowest headwind.
Yeah.
This one, if you pull back to about 5,000, it stables out about 120 true.
Okay.
I do not.
And fuel burn gets to 5 gallons or less.
Yep.
Now, the reason I do 5,200 on a thermally day, because when the autopilot comes off a bump and it goes back down trying to get to altitude, the RPM would go over too easy because of the clean of the airframe.
Okay.
So I run 52 on this airplane. The A22, I like 5350 is a good number.
Oh, is that right?
So you're not jockeying the throttle.
Yeah.
Thermal.
Right. And the engine can obviously handle that, no problem, all day long.
Yeah.
Autopilot.
I can kill the autopilot and you never know it went off. The airplane just keeps flying the same.
Buckeye traffic, Cherokee, partner and whiskey is about 3 miles.
Yeah, autopilot. The thing I didn't think we needed back some years ago until I flew with it a bit and went, oh yeah, no, this is great.
I never had one. I always poo-pooed them, especially on the 22. Oh gosh, they fly so great hand flying.
Yeah, sure. The joy is wiggling the stick a little bit.
I'm not the plane to fly. I don't want that to fly itself. But now that I travel a lot,
right,
I don't want to be without.
Yeah, sure. If you're just going around looking at things, yeah, then you want to hand fly the thing. But
Are you guys?
We'll get a little higher here and we'll do some slow flight and some stalls.
All right, let's do that. And so what is your, while you're talking about climbing a little bit, let's do your 3 climb speeds. Climb angle, climb rate, and en route climb. Speed and about what that produces.
Okay, VX is 55 miles an hour, which is 48 or 50 knots.
Okay.
Best climb is 62 miles an hour. And miles an hour, which would be 55 knots.
Okay.
And then my cruise is 75 to 80 miles an hour at 400 or 500 feet a minute. If I just want to creep up, it's 100 miles an hour for a climb.
Okay. And full power?
Well, a lot of times I don't tweak the power. I finally get my cruise set somewhere and I'll leave it. But if I go full power, let the R's come up, I cruise 100 miles an hour, about 450, 500 feet a minute or so when it settles out.
So yeah, if you had a long climb, you might do that just to get up there a little quicker. But of course, you'll burn a little more fuel. Although even at, you got it all the way in now?
I got it all the way in now.
Okay, we're at 5,300 and we're only 6.5 gallons an hour, so it's still not too bad considering your max throttle.
It's going between 400 and 550 feet a minute with between the thermals that are helping us or not helping us. Now we'll go ahead and fall into some slow flight.
All right.
I'll ease it back.
Yeah, so in this particular configuration, I'll observe while you're setting that next thing up is we are using what is sometimes the yoke location for the throttles in this particular airplane. So each occupant has got a throttle right in front of them. Looks real handy on you can almost rest your hand on your knee there and move the throttle gently or keep your hand on it while you're doing takeoff and landing operations.
And for small increments,
joystick is really comfortable. We can both be on it, so good for instruction.
For small increments where you want to really, you can just finger right there, just like you could on a Lycoming or Continental with the Vernier throttle.
All right. Now, you can get the airplane with yokes, though, if you want,
Correct.
right? Okay. And then where would the throttle be once you've got...
Where the stick is, there's a throttle quadrant right down here in the center.
Okay, so they just kind of switch positions in the
Correct.
center. All right.
And the brake on the throttle quadrant moves with the lever, so you don't have to take your hand off the throttle to get a brake.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah, because you would never use the two in joint configuration anyway, so that makes it real simple.
And some of my competitors, you got to take your hand off of something to get to the brake lever.
Right, right.
So we'll just get slowed down here. This airplane takes very, very little power to maintain altitude. And speed. I'll turn the flight director off so it doesn't keep giving me a low airspeed warning. So clean, slow flight, even as low as 60 miles an hour is a good comfortable speed.
Okay.
We're still about 20 over stall at 60 miles an hour.
Okay, 60 is more than 20 difference, so you can really loiter very well, and if you want to do photography or inspect something on the ground or just joyride.
It's got the same handing. We'll still pretty much fly hands off other than the thermals we got out here.
All right.
Very safe to make turns at a pretty good low speed. This will help your angle of the camera, well, some of the cameras I was thinking of the sunshine. We'll just leave about that much throttle in there and we'll ease it back to the stall.
Yeah, let's aim about that direction when we get settled on it. That'll be good for this camera over here. Probably both of them. That sunlight lighting up the interior of the cockpit.
And just slowly now I'll ease it back to a stall. I'll leave a little power in it. Not much.
All right. So this could be an approach stall here. You got a little bit of power going on while you approach. Not paying attention as much as you should. And here's what happens.
Getting some pretty good thermal lifts right here.
Getting good at sensing these thermals. Down to 45. This is miles an hour we're talking about here. Power is set at 29 or about 3,000, which is almost idle thrust for the Rotax, but not quite.
Correct. Just barely off idle. Between 3,000 and 3,500 would probably be an approach RPM unless you did a perfect power off 190 or 180.
Right. This would be common for a lot of people, this situation right here.
And there we're down right around 40. We still haven't stalled yet.
Down
We're
to
sitting
40.
there right on the edge.
Deck angle's looking like maybe, I don't know, 30 degrees or something. Up there pretty good. Not real steep. 39 even.
Hold there at 39, 38. See if I can at least get it to shudder a little bit and drop. There it is, right about there.
Yeah, so around 38 miles an hour, which would translate to 33 or so knots. That's very slow, obviously. And we're just drifting across the ground here, and we're approximately crosswind, so that's not a factor.
And I can fly right on the edge of stall, and the plane just kind of buffets but stays there. It never really drops and breaks.
Okay, let's go ahead and see what happens when you come further back then.
Further back with the stick?
Yep.
Okay. I'll ease it back to it slowly rather than whip it up. I'm all the way back.
There you go.
There,
Okay,
it's
so
gonna tip
about
over.
36 is where it really started to kind of get sloppy and want to let go and say, hey, you're not going fast enough.
Okay, we'll give one notch of flaps. We can do
All
the
right.
same thing.
Let's do that. Repeat now. One notch of flaps. This would be very much now landing configuration we're in. You got notch of flaps down. Some RPM, but not much. See what the speeds look like this time. We're still at 3,000 RPM, approximately. There's 36, where we were before, still hanging on. 34, 33, 32.
Right about there's the shudder. And the drop is probably going to be just about there. If it'll drop. I'm almost to the stop. There it finally goes.
Yeah, so one notch of flaps significantly reduced that. It just didn't really want to drop. You had almost aggravated to get it to drop.
Now we'll do the second.
All right. Now we got full flaps, right?
20 degrees, full
Okay.
flaps, full length ailerons. Actually, temperature-wise, it's pretty much a normal day, about 70 degrees, fairly close.
32, 31, about 30 there for a second. So you can really approach in this aircraft very slowly. 31.
And we're only got a sink rate of about 200 feet.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah, good
barely
observation.
before stall.
At 32 miles an hour, we were only, call it 300, but it was actually a little bit less than that.
There's
There
the
we go.
brake.
I saw 28 for a second and felt a little burble. So very, very slow. That's only like 25, 24 knots.
Got it.
That's a very slow speed, and it wasn't misbehaving at all. A little wandering at the nose, of course. It's going, hey, just don't have enough air.
And that you made the point right there. Such a slow air over the controls, it's always going to get a little mushier.
Yeah, of course, right. Not enough work in there to make it surfaces active. Very, very slow. That's great. Let's see a departure stall, Dennis.
Okay.
At whatever power setting you're comfortable with.
Oh, I'm okay with full stall, full power.
All right.
Get some speed up here a little bit, and then we'll ease it back. Departure stall would be 1 notch of flaps, and that's what I still have yet.
Okay, so 1 notch of flaps down. Power is all the way in now.
All the way in.
Throttle is to the stop. Currently climbing 1,000 feet a minute, so there you are on takeoff. You're doing just what you're supposed to, but you're letting it go too far here. 35, 34, 33, 32, 31.
Almost won't.
30, 29,
There it is,
28.
right there.
Okay, so that 28 number again, that's where it's really just going, hey, there's just not enough air here.
See if I can get it to at least drop and do a clean break.
Deck angle's approaching 45 degrees.
There it is.
Okay, I saw 26 for a moment there, so very, very slow. That's below 24 knots if you've got full power and full flaps. Seems to me pretty darn unlikely you'd have a problem with stall on this airplane. Of course, people can aggravate things. Let's try some accelerated stalls, one each way, if you will.
Okay, let me get a little higher here.
Yeah, sure, wherever you want, and then I would say at cruise power, something like that. Or slightly less than cruise, whatever you choose. Yeah, so we saw 28 there, or 20, even a little bit less than 28 on the lowest end, and we were seeing 125 or so on about the highest end. And again, this is all lower altitude. You go up higher, you're going to see better numbers. Maybe not indicated, but
On my trip out here, I was seeing 130 to 133 true pretty much no matter what altitude, what it was indicating.
okay.
As it settled down, it's like that last 2 or 3 mile an hour comes when you finally stop doing anything.
Okay, so that's, well, it's at least 125 then,
Oh,
from
yeah.
about 25. Those are both a little bit approximated and a little bit favorable to the airplane, but that's almost that magical 5-to-1 number that is very hard to achieve. In fact, 4-to-1 is considered the holy grail, so it's beyond that. So good job, Yuri and the boys over there at Aeroprakt. How many airplanes are like this, or not this one, but all the Aeroprakts flying? What's the current count, would you guess?
They're
Or do you
approaching
know?
1,800.
1,800 airplanes. Okay, so that's quite a good run for Aeroprakt. Since, as I recall, probably pretty early 2000s when they organized, right?
Correct. Well, actually, the first production A22 was 1996.
96. Okay, I thought it might have been back into the 90s.
They had the A20s early 90s in a recruiter form, then they finally had around 2000.
The A20 is the Vista Cruiser, right?
Correct.
Yeah, an airplane I like very much, but yeah, not as sophisticated as this one. But it flew very nicely. I love the way it flew.
All right, we'll just level it out here and now get a nice cruise going.
So I'm just doing a couple of numbers in my head there. It's about 2,000 airplanes and about 20 years. Rough numbers again.
Correct.
But that's 100 airplanes a year. That's a good performance by a small airplane company, I would
The
say.
A32 has been in production about 3 to 3.5 years now, and they are up to serial number 122.
Okay, so it's starting off real strong then. But another thing I'm liking here, I'm sitting over here on my side looking straight forward. Right in the middle of my vision is the panel comes to an end, and I can see almost down in front of us here, around the side of the panel, which is really nice. I'm thinking for landings, that really helps. You don't have to look out to the side to see how close you're getting to the ground. You got a nice view forward.
Here's I trying to settle down here and just get a 5350. We're bumping 130 on the true airspeed,
Yeah,
pretty
there you
much.
are. And only at 3,500 feet too, so.
All right, we'll go ahead and just get a little bit more gentle cruise. We'll do that accelerated stall.
All right, going to the left here on the first one. Power settings at about 5,100. Entry speed is about 100 miles an hour, and we're starting in the action now. Bank angle is about 30 degrees or so. Maybe a little more than that. More like 40 degrees, actually, 45 degrees.
If you don't retrim, you start feeling the pressure on the elevator. It's trying to tell you that you're definitely coming off a trim speed.
Speed is now 51, there's 50. Down into the 40s, still hanging in there. Pretty good bank angle here, 45-degree bank angle. Speed is now 45. Still no joggling or hunting of the nose at all.
And still climbing.
Still doing the turn, still 300 feet a minute up, 350 there.
Come on, sweetheart. Let me have one. Just a little one.
Down to 40 now. This, again, it's very slow, considering we're at 45-degree bank here, so.
You can feel her shaking a bit there.
Yeah, it's starting to, but it's only fuzzy. It's still doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, we're.
There it is. Nothing's happening. The wings are staying level.
And even that is kind of a non-event there. Let's try that to the right and see if it repeats. I had no reason to think it wouldn't, but. So very good slow speed capabilities with very nice manners at those speeds. That's impressive.
And that's the surprising how they got it to go so fast and still maintain. There's a kick right there. 42, 43.
Yeah, we're down to the low 40s. This is miles an hour again, so that's 36, 35 knots. 45-degry bank.
It's sitting there buffeting, but it's not dropping or changing angle on the wing.
No, and how far are you? Almost all the way back?
I might have a little bit more there, but right about there is the buffer. There it goes.
And when it went to level, so perfect response. Let's try that once more to the left and see if we can get that same response. I want to see if it breaks back to level that way, because that's obviously a very good characteristic when it does that.
Okay, there's mid-40s.
Down to 40 again, just saw 40, down into the 30s. 37 we saw, getting a burbling action. Telling you something.
And she's trying to go back level.
Yep, and it wants to go level again. Yeah, it's really protesting. I mean, it's telling you, hey, stop that, please, I need some air.
And because of the big ailerons, full, you're really feeling it here. It's shaking and you're having to hold it.
It was pretty clear. I mean, you'd have to really be ignoring it, but even if you continued to ignore it, the qualities were good.
This one, with the offline stabilizer, you can be in a stall and you can still sit there and have the plane do this. The elevator's got a little bit left.
Is that right? Okay, and you're contrasting that with the A32.
Which at 35-ish, you're going to just take a descent all the way to the ground, hit nicely and land, but you got nothing to stop the descent.
I see, okay.
Since I've gotten used to this one now, I'm used to approaching like Oshkosh. I'm coming around the corners at 38 or 39 miles an hour, trying to get the stop in that 900 feet.
Yeah, it's a pretty short runway there on the ultralight strip at AirVenture, so.
And the cleaner.
And you got like 3 turns on final.
So the 22 there, my approach speed, I tell guys, 50 to 45, just don't stop the descent until you're right at the ground, because once you do, then the flaperons, they're down, and as the angle of the wing changes, now the drag kicks up, speed goes away quicker.
I see, okay,
So this one's the same, only thing you can approach comfortably at 40, because stall speed of the flaps down 30 or less.
Very interesting. So, you know, a lot of airplanes, they work to make them go faster. I get that. People like to go fast when they want to go fast. I get that. But this one, they not only went faster, but they went slower. So that's a nice accomplishment when you can widen the speed range on each end with an iteration like they did 22 to 32.
It still allows it to be a great backcountry airplane. It is available with the Tundra tires now.
Okay, let's go back and do a couple of landings, Dennis. Let's do just one normal landing and then come around for the last one, and let's see a nice short field landing.
Okay. Buckeye traffic, 296 Alpha Mike Light Sport, 5 miles to the west, inbound land, full stop. Buckeye.
We're going to do a touch and go, though.
Buckeye. Yes, you're using 17. But I do warn people, when you do a touch and go in this airplane, if you're rolling at all, the touch is and go are, the minute the throttle's up, it's gone. There's no rolling till you pick up speed again. As you saw the stall at 27, if your flaps are in and you're going to touch and go, if you're trying to do a full stall, just as you're at 27, boom, you're flying at 30.
Yeah, right away. It's good. Well, and you mentioned the strength of the stabilator. It was obvious on your takeoff. I mean, you pulled the stick back right away, and you barely added any power, and the nose wheel came off the ground. So that goes back to that backcountry capability of this nose wheel aircraft. Looks like it should do pretty well.
And as you can see, the glide ratio, I'm kind of just keeping around 80, 85, and it just don't want to come down. I got the throttle at the stop.
Yeah, you're all the way full back on the throttle. It's showing 2,600, but that's because we still got some air movement. So you're at idle thrust. Speed is about 75 to 80 in there, and our descent we're sinking now at 600 feet a minute, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like we're just flying along level with a low power setting.
And the difference between the two airplanes is about 100 feet a minute per sync rate at best glide. This one's 100 feet a minute less than that one.
Okay.
Departing runway 17.
I have to really, when I even just switching planes,
Buckeye.
or when I'm downwind, when I make my turns, I got to really realize which airplane I'm
You
flying.
got to think about it. Okay. There's enough difference between the two that Dennis has to think about that. You consider that. How many hours have you got in each airplane?
I've got over 1,400 in the 22s, and I'm probably approaching 150 in this one.
Okay. That's a lot of time in the 22s there.
Now, it does slip well. If you're going to do a nice slip on this airplane,
Okay.
leave the flaps up.
Okay, let's see a slip as we come in for landing then. All right, we can do it right here. Wow, look at that angle. Holy cow.
Runway 7 for a wet.
That will really get you down. Sync rate is now 1,350 feet a minute. 1,500 feet a minute. Wow, that is really presents some side area.
And we can get to 1,800 feet a minute. And then when you get down where you want, level it out, pull the flaps in, get it slowed down.
Can you switch the fuel tanks in flight?
Yeah, right here behind us, the ball valves,
All right, I see it.
red handle. Up and down is on, cross it is off.
Got it.
Commonality of parts. Same ball valve on both sides, but the handle can't both go up. One's got to come down one.
Oh, I see.
So to be on, now they're both on. One's
Oh,
down,
I see.
one's up.
Okay. Yep.
That's typical for me. I try and get guys down at least 70 to 80 on downwind.
Okay.
Start getting a approach speed you like.
Again, we're talking miles an hour here, so 75 on downwind, and you haven't deployed any flaps yet. Power setting is about 42 now. So that's a good pattern power set.
I got a little low there when we were playing with the slip, so we'll creep it back up. Now this airplane, if you don't have any flaps for landing, and you do a full stall type of landing, it will drag the tail skid, which you will know from your first one.
Yes, right.
So the A32 is you will want at least one notch of flaps on every landing.
Okay, so you don't put that tail on the ground.
I personally use 2 on everything.
Do you? Okay, you always use 2 on landing?
I am, and even if the wind is really blowing or the manual says after 15 knots, 1 notch instead of 2 or none, I haven't found a point where I ever ran out of ailerons, even with the full flaps down.
Okay. Yeah, that could be a factor because in flaperons, for those that may not know, you are using up some of the total range of the aileron motion that it's capable of. So you would think perhaps that you might run out of that if you got full flaps, but that's not been your experience, you said.
And again, here's the flaps. Where I put the flaps in and out, there's no pitch change in the airplane.
Oh yeah, look at that. In fact, what it did was the pitch didn't change, but I sensed we lifted a little bit. So that lift application, as you've been talking about, is definitely there.
Buckeye traffic, 96 Alpha Mike, turn and final runway 17, Buckeye. Book approach speed says 62.
62, okay. We were 75 on downwind, now we're to 60.
But I like 50 to 55 on this airplane.
Okay.
55 to 60 on a 22.
That is definitely not falling out of the sky, though. I can see as we're approaching the runway here.
I'm trying to get
it. You gotta actually lower down a little bit. Just wanting to float along.
I'm trying to get it to come down to the numbers. I'm not going to make it there.
We're seeing, we're watching about 60, just where he said he wanted to be. So, and power is at full idle. Throttle is full back.
Now here's where the elevator can get some people, because it's very easy to lay in too much and have it balloon back up. Or the airplane's still trying to fly.
Yeah, it's touched down very lightly, like
it will go back up again.
We're about 4 miles to the west.
In really challenging conditions, to the flight schools that fly both and evaluate them, the 22 is probably a little draggier, a little easier to get it to land nicely in different, especially challenging conditions. Now I've got enough time in this one now. I'm finally like I'm either one, but I do have to be more precise with my elevator control.
And how short can you land this one? And the 22, can you land it tighter? I'm guessing yes.
If I can hit the same spot 10 miles an hour slower in this one, I can take off and land in 70, 80 feet.
Is that right?
And with full flap takeoff, the plane just kind of elevates. It doesn't really pitch up much. It just kind of comes straight up.
2,500 rolling right.
Traffic.
Yeah, I got him. I've got another guy over there taking off.
Yep, just pointing him out.
The good thing is I get downwind. I can crawl.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now,
yeah, and that is impressive. You just went from none to full flaps right there.
and full flap speed is 90 miles an hour if you want to use it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so pretty high number then for flap deployment.
And I'm going up. I don't want to go up. Or easily maintain an altitude at 3,400 RPM.
Boy, if you wanted to look at stuff here, this is about as good a viewing platform as you get, and the speed is just wonderful.
We're well above any kind of stall, so our safety margin is at 50 with the full flaps. We got a 20-mile-an-hour safety margin.
Yeah, right. You're not even close to stall here.
Buckeye traffic, 96 Alpha Mike, turning right base, runway 17, just north of the highway.
And through all these maneuvers, I've never seen any of the temperatures, oil, cylinder, nothing has gone, I mean, even remotely close to warm.
Now, when they redid the airflow through the engine bay is really controlled, unlike the 22 goes around the cylinders, the wires, the boxes. All the air goes through a tunnel and out the bottom, so nothing's draggy on the engine other than the small baffle system they have that puts it right over top of the cylinders. That was a big drag exercise for them, is figuring out how to cut down all that drag in the engine bay.
Yeah, and people don't realize it. You think you want all the air in the world going into your engine compartment, and you do to a point, but that can also be a factor in performance. I learned many years ago that how you handle cooling can affect how well your airplane performs. Not just because of engine operation, but just by drag.
And they admit when they first did this, they had issues with cooling, but because one of the partners is in the UAE, they had to make it work.
Right, yeah. Hot country down there, and that's
I think that's kind of why.
He's been an investor in the company since almost day one, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have started the company.
Right.
So to them, even with no tape on a 105 degree humid day back, they stay at 195, 200 water. And the oil, they don't put an oil thermostat on this one. I've requested it for cold. They go, you'll be fine. But I haven't seen, the oil is hard to get it to 200. When I want to see 200 I want to see 212 actually.
Right.
But I can't, even the 32, they've got it so well controlled. All right, see if I can get it back down here to a single rotate and stop flying. Probably won't with the crosswind burbling like it is.
Right, yeah, you are. You could do even better if the wind was right down the runway here, but we're still going to see a nice short one, I can tell.
Yeah, I don't want to scare you. Right here's where the floatiness comes in, but
yeah, you tend to see it's to kind of work the stabilizer a little bit.
And then I can get on the brakes and get it stopped. Whoop.
Sure.
Sliding the wheels there. Might help if I had throttle all the way back.
Cool.
Okay, traffic, station 525.
The key on this one is once you get on the ground, dump the flaps, get the weight on the brakes, hit the brakes.
There you go.
7 full stop.
Yeah, I haven't figured out yet. I know taking the wheel pants off of this airplane is 2 to 3 miles an hour. I would have thought more, but that's all it was.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting to hear, though.
I haven't sold one since this is my demo. I haven't sold one yet with the wheel pants. They're all getting them.
Oh, is that right?
Mud guards and bare tires.
Huh.
The Tundras, I'm going to say my cruise speed's going to go from 130-ish to 20-ish, maybe 22, but I don't know for sure. Over that way a little bit, and then I'll back it in. The cabin on this one is a little quieter than the other one.
Is it? Okay.
Part of it's air noise. They've redesigned the engine mount to be different. Let me kill this.
Engine speed.